Hi, welcome to our first Adobe Muse tutorial. Now today we're going to create something like this. This is the European PlayStation Blog website, and let's have a look at some of the cool features on this website. The first thing I want you to take notice of are the PlayStation icons that are on the side here. As I scroll down, they move out of the screen, and if I scroll back up, they'll come back in. That is called a parallax effect, and we're going to be doing that in Adobe Muse today. Now a couple of other things we're going to replicate is the following. Now if you have a look up here, you'll see a little title, Sony, with a black bar, and underneath that a navigation bar. Now when I scroll down, the black bar hides or scrolls away, but the navigation bar stays. And I can scroll all the way down, and that navigation bar is fixed at the top of the screen, and that is so that the user can always search and use some of the icons. Another cool feature is the fade that happens on these icons over here. So if I scroll down, you'll see them not only scroll up but fade away as I scroll, and when I scroll back, it comes back. Now another cool thing is that these icons down the side, the social media icons, they stay fixed on the right side of the screen even while I'm scrolling down. So these are sort of the things we're going to implement today. So to recap, we're using these icons to create a parallax effect in Adobe Muse, and also we're going to do some navigation, some fixed positioning up top and down the sides here, to create a replica website. Now you can find parallax websites everywhere, but one of the best websites is Apple's website. Now this parallax effect is fantastic, and if I scroll down the page, you'll see an amazing parallax effect, and as I continue to scroll, you'll start to see little animations running. It is really cool, and if I scroll back up, animation is reversed. Fantastic. So how to do this? Well, you can do it in Adobe Muse without any coding. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is go File, New Site, and we'll leave all the default settings and we'll just hit OK. Now I'm not going to go into what are the pages here and what's a master page. You guys can look at Adobe's tutorials to find out some of the basics on Muse. Today we're going to learn how to do some parallax and a few other things. So let's get started. I'm just going to double click on the home page, and we're greeted with a blank white page. What I'm going to do is use Control minus or Command minus if you're on a Mac, and just zoom out a little bit. First thing I want to do is put a background picture in. Now these pictures are provided for you in Student Share. If you don't have access to them, just download some similar ones from the internet. So I'm just going to go up to Browser Fill up here, and I'm going to add an image. And this image is the PlayStation background, and what we're going to do is put a background picture. Now because it's a Photoshop image, it detects if there are layers, and we want basically the whole image, so we're just going to import a composite image and hit OK. Now it's a little off center, so what we're going to do is change the positioning to the top. We're going to pin it to the top there. Another thing we're going to do is the fitting. We're going to make sure it's scaled to fill, and I might just come and drag this bottom of the browser and just drag that down, just to make the page a little longer, just so we have a bit of a scroll there. Okay, cool. I'll hit Control plus or Command plus to zoom back in a little bit. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do are these icons that I showed you on the PlayStation blog, and we're going to do a parallax effect on them. So let's go ahead and bring in those pictures. We're going to go File, Place, and the pictures are called PS icons, and hit OK. It's a Photoshop file, but that's okay because Adobe Muse accepts Photoshop files, which is fantastic. Now, that Photoshop file has 5 different layers. So instead of bringing in the composite image, which is the entire Photoshop file, I'm going to import one layer at a time. Now the first one I want is the square, so I'm going to hit OK on that, and I'm going to place the square about there. Next one is going to be the X, so I'm going to go File, Place Again. Same image, but this time a different layer, and it's the X layer. And I'm going to basically place that just on it like this. Now I'm just going to move to the other side, and we're going to place the triangle and circle on this side here. So File, Place, I'm going to grab the same Photoshop file, different layer this time. I'm going to place the triangle. I'm going to go File, Place Again. Import a different layer, and this time it's this circle. And I'll place that about there. Just move that up a bit. So the positioning is a little off. What I can do is down the left and up top you'll see a ruler, and I can drag a ruler down and just place it so I can get the levels correct, because I want the square and the triangle to level up, and I might do the same for the X and the circle. I'll just bring the circle down so it's level. Once they're in, I can remove these rulers. So it's up to you. They're just guidelines. I would just keep them for the time being. They don't show up on your final design. Okay, so now for the parallax effect. Obviously, if I go into preview now, and I preview my website and I scroll down, those icons just scroll normally with my background image. So how to add the parallax effect? Now I'm going to demonstrate it on one of the icons, so I'll just drag this icon here, and it's called the scroll effect. So I'm just going to click open the panel called Scroll Effects, and I'm going to enable motion. Now the first thing you'll notice is this little key point, this key position that comes up. Now I'm going to tell you what this is. Basically, this is a key position, and you have settings for what happens to your picture before that key position and after that key position. Now let me demonstrate. I'm going to drag this X icon and I'm going to put it on the same level as the top of the square, and I'm going to say to the motion that I don't want the X to move in any direction, so I'm going to put 0. Initial motion is 0. But as soon as I have scrolled and the top of the page has reached the key position, which is at the top of this square, I want the X to move, let's say I want it to move right by the speed of 3. Okay. So let's do a preview here. So there should be no movement from the X until I scroll and the square gets to the top of the page, it reaches the top of the page, and then the X starts moving. Okay, so let me go back to design, and what I'll do, I'll add another initial motion. I'll add that I want it to go left by 3, a speed of 3. So basically what's going to happen is, before the scroll or the top of the page reaches this key point, its initial motion is set to the left side times 3 speed. So it will be moving left at a speed of 3 until the top of the page reaches that key position. And once it reaches that key position, it's going to change to final motion, and I've set it to move to the right side by a speed of 3. So let's have a look at that. Initially it should be moving left, and it is moving left, And then once the square reaches the top of the page, it should start to move right, and it is. And there is our parallax effect. So let's do this, and let's actually program the proper parallax that we saw on the PlayStation blog. So I'm just going to move the X icon back up top. The key position is going to be right at the top of the page, because if I go to the PlayStation blog, those icons move as soon as I start scrolling, they move. So that means its key position is right at the top of the page. So I'm going to add scroll motion on all of them and set the key position right at the top of the page. So I'm just going to go to the triangle, hit motion, key position, top of the page. Circle, turn motion on, put the key position to the top of the page. Now right now, every icon has scroll motion enabled and their key position is at the top of the page. Now its initial motion, we don't want anything. Okay, so we're going to go to every single icon and make sure its initial motion is on 0. For both up, down, left and right, its initial motion should be 0. So I'm putting 0 in there. Now what we're going to do is say for the square in X, as soon as the top of the page goes past the key point, we want it to move up and left at a speed of, let's say, 4. And we'll also do the same for X. We want it to go, we might actually make it go a little slower, maybe a speed of 3. And we also want it to go left, not right, so make sure you change that. So we want to go up and left at a speed of 3, and we want the square to go up and left at a speed of 4. And let's preview that. So as soon as I start scrolling, they start moving out of the page. And I scroll back and they come back. Cool motion. Okay, I'm going back to design view and I'm going to do the triangle and circle now. So I'm going to hit on the triangle, and what I'm going to do is make sure there is no motion, initial motion is 0, but as soon as the page scrolls past that key point, I want it to move up at a speed of 4, and I want it to move right at a speed of 4. And the circle, I'm going to go up and right again, but I want it a little bit slower, and that's just going to make it look cooler. So let's hit preview on that, and now all 4 of my icons are getting blown out of the screen. Looks fantastic. Okay, there's our first parallax effect. Now, parallax is very, very simple with that tool. And you can do cool and simple and subtle things like this, or you can do really complex parallax effects like this one here. Really, really cool. So the next thing we're going to do is create our navigation bar. Now on the PlayStation blog, we've got a top layer, which is just a black bar. It has Sony's icon, and when you scroll, that disappears. But the second black bar, which is a little bit of a navigation bar and a search bar, that stays fixed at the top of the page. Now how to actually get that going? Let's try it. So the first thing we're going to do is create the little title. So I'm just going to grab a shape. I'm going to grab the rectangular tool, and I'm going to draw a shape over the top like so. I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to go to fill, and what I'm going to do is change the color of the fill to black. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the text tool, and I want to write Sony. Okay, so I've just written Sony in there. Now what I'm going to do is just highlight the text. So I can just highlight like that, or if on the keyboard you can hit Control A, and that will highlight it all. And I'm just going to increase the font. I'm also going to change the color so we can see it. I'm going to make it white, and I'll just center it. I'll grab the moving tool now, and I might want to just move that. Okay, so that looks very similar. Not the same font type. Obviously we can change the font type as well. So I can highlight that and go over and try and find a font type that is going to match Sony's. Okay. Now if I preview the website, you'll see as I scroll, that scrolls away, which is exactly how the Sony blog has it. It scrolls away. Now we'll come back and we'll edit that later. But the next thing we want to do is have the navigation bar with the links. So we're going to do another shape layer. And this one is a little bit thicker. And we're going to make this, what color is this? It's dark gray. Well, I'm just going to fill it. I'm just going to fill it with a dark gray for now. Let's see. Or maybe a bluish navy. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to add my links. So 3 links and a nice little icon on the left hand side. So I'm just going to grab the text tool and I'm just going to start writing, and I'm just going to write link 1. Control A to select it all. Let's make it bigger, let's center it, and let's change it to white. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this, Control C, and then paste it, Control V, and I'll have 3 more links. Actually, I'll just have 3 links all up, and I'll put a little icon here. So I'll go File, Place, and what I'm going to do is grab the PS icons, and I'm going to bring in the composite, and I'm just going to put that right there. Now let's preview this, and let's have a look at what happens. So right now, they all scroll down. Okay. Now how to make this bar stay. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select everything I have here. So I'm going to click on the background. I'm going to hold Shift and click on my icon and my links. And once I have them all selected, I'm going to right click and I'm going to group them. Now at any time I can just right click and ungroup as well and separate them so I can edit them again. But what I want to do is group them, because what we're going to do is we're going to add a parallax. So I'm going to turn on motion and I'm going to put it at the top of the page. Its initial motion is going to be 1 going up. Now 1 is the same scroll speed when people scroll down the page. That is the normal scroll speed of 1. So we're going to keep that the same. But as soon as this bar reaches a particular point, we do not want it to scroll anymore. We want it to be fixed, so it will not move anymore. So we're going to make sure the final motion is set to 0. So its initial motion is set to 1. It will scroll up, but when it gets to a key position, which is the top of the page, we don't want it to scroll anymore. Now what is the top of the page? Where do we want it to not scroll anymore? Well, we don't want it to scroll anymore when it itself reaches the top of the page. So I'm going to bring the key position down to the top of the navigation bar. Now let's have a look at that. Let's do a preview. So it should still be moving, and it is. It's still moving. But as soon as it reaches the top of the navigation bar, it stops moving, and I can keep scrolling, and it will not move anymore. Okay. Now there are a couple of little problems here. There's a little bit of a gap while I scroll there, but that's easily fixed with some different background colors and things like that. Also probably changing the scroll motion, making it maybe a little bit faster, a little bit slower could do the trick as well. Okay, now how to make these links actual links to other pages. Now while designing my website, I created a couple of extra pages, and I'll just call this link 1, I'll call this one link 2, and this one link 3, or I should call them page 1. Yeah, it's page 1, page 2, page 3. So I've got a home page, page 1, page 2, page 3. I'll go back into my home page, and what I'm going to do is say link 1. I'm going to add a hyperlink, and I'm going to say I want you to go to page 1. Link 2, hyperlinks, we're going to add you to page 2. Link page 3. So what we can do is actually change that to link 2. And that's going to page 3. And we can test this out if we go to preview. So our scroll still works. And if I go link 1, that actually takes me to page 1. And what we can do is to make sure that it is going to page 1, just put some text in there and just say page 1. And let's do a quick preview on that. And there we are. Excellent. Cool. So now the next one, couple of icons, maybe Facebook, Twitter icons that we can plant on the right side here, and it doesn't matter where you go, it will always. So on the desktop, I've got some icons, and I'll just grab those. And I'll just bring this. So what are we going to do? We're just going to grab the cropping tool here, and we're just going to bring that in and just have Facebook. And I'll just move it over to the right for now. And let's do one more icon. File place. Let's get those icons in here. And crop it down again, and we'll just get the Twitter icon for now. Let's just place that here. Okay, so what we're going to do, this is an easy one. We do not have to apply scroll motion to it. You can if you want. You can enable scroll motion and just set everything to 0 if you like, but there's an easier way. It's called pinning. And what we're going to do is basically we're going to pin this to the top right of the page like so, and that one to the bottom right of the page. And let's do a preview. And once an item is pinned to the right, they will always stay there like so. Okay, it doesn't matter how much you scroll, and you can adjust where it's pinned as well. This also helps with different screen sizes. If people zoom in and out of a page, that will help fix up where things are pinned. Looks fantastic. And then obviously you have room to start populating the content within your website and get it to look really, really cool. Now the last step of our tutorial is going to be this section here with our navigation bar. And while you scroll, the navigation bar fades away. Okay.